Bigpod, I have a problem.
What?
I have turned on my computer, and I went to my Mastodon instance, and I discovered that PewDiePie has installed Linux.
Really? Ooh.
Yes, and during this whole a live stream, he ran systemd analyze on his system, where it took his system, I think it was 27 seconds to boot.
Okay.
So, I went down a rabbit hole. I checked all of my systems. And I discovered that my web server takes 7.5 minutes to boot.
Great.
So, now I actually have to fix things.
Cue the music.
Hey guys, welcome back to No Tucks Allowed. I am your host, Josh. And I have brought this guy named Bigpod with me today. How's it going?
Hello. Doing great. You?
Well, that's good because, things are turning cancerous here in the United States, and I won't go into too many details as to why, but I have turned off my television. But anyways, let's get to talking about the world's greatest social media service, Reddit. Bigpod, did you know that I've been watching and reading Reddit basically since I discovered that the internet exists?
Yeah, I think you said so many times before.
Yeah. Now, that said, I'm not one of those guys that takes like Reddit seriously all the time. But compared to like all these other social media services, Reddit has never had this thing called a paywall or an account wall or any way of preventing anonymous users from seeing what's on their website. I mean, yes, there's been some restrictions, but like since this whole AI thing's come around and like all these AI models are being trained off of Reddit data, and Reddit servers, which are notorious for uptime, are now starting to have issues. They've been making some changes with like some APIs that are now like extremely expensive to pay for, and nowadays they are looking at ways to enable like subsections of Reddit known as subreddits to enable content that only paid members can access and see.
Interesting.
So I think we're going to get paywalls on Reddit. That said, they haven't said that they're doing this yet. They said that they were working on it.
Yes. And
so there's a difference because there is still time to complain and have Reddit reverse course. They have left that door open, but they have not said that they're enabling it yet.
I think from the 5-foot view or 50-foot view, how you want to call it, it actually makes sense to have paid Reddits. But and for them it's a lot easier to enable payments than some startup that just tries to add Stripe to the application, because that is a horrible programming model.
Yeah, and there is a lot of content available on Reddit that is, yes, there is some stuff where it's just outright stupid, but there every now and then you'll get that one Reddit post that gets so popular off of the website that it reaches out towards like all the external media sources. Like, the engineer that calculated how many times you need to slap a frozen chicken to have it fully cooked.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
That made national headlines. He not only counted the number of slaps that the average human hand would need to proceed. He calculated how fast that they would need to go, or if you want to one slap the chicken to have it from frozen to cooked. He calculated the terminal velocity that your hand would need to achieve. Safe to say, you need to break the sound barrier a few times.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's also like the solid goal of Reddit that is product recommendations, right? Because Reddit, for me at least, has never given me the best product recommendation, but it's never been the absolute bad option.
Yeah, I believe.
At least from my experience. It's always given me something that does the task that I'm looking to get done. And, when it comes to something basic like, this wall plug checker that I have, it's pretty good because, I've had this thing for like 10 years now and I got it from Reddit.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Reddit is really just a fancy forum section.
Yeah, Reddit is a forum. And there are forums that have like these premium subscriptions. That way you can access the forum. That's basically what Usenet is nowadays. If you need like the most classic example of a forum, but Reddit has had like some paid for premium versions of community features. Like there was a subreddit called The Lounge. It's a subreddit for people that pay like Reddit's gold subscription. They're the only ones that are actually allowed to post there, but they've never actually disabled like the viewing of it. But there are some subreddits as well, where it's just like you need to pay like a Patreon subscription to be able to access the subreddit, and then you pass them like your Reddit username, and then they'll actually authorize your account. But Reddit's looking to just bring that onto the source. Now, where this fails is for like that person 12 years down the line is wanting to Google something and the answer's on Reddit. Google has indexed the Reddit comment into their search algorithm. But when you click on that link to, expand that search to be able to read the whole thing, now you're getting the Reddit prompt saying that, hey, you need to pay us money to be able to view this. And that is the biggest flaw to this that I can see. Because, there are some things where, like, Reddit commenters sometimes are geniuses. Because, sometimes you might get, like, the maintainer of some obscure project posting on there with a solution that's not quite in the documentation. Or, supposed to be in the documentation, but has never made it there. Because I ran into that a few times. But that is something a little bit more. That is something that's becoming a little bit concerning. But there is one company making a change that is far more concerning for me because of where I live geographically. And Bigpod, are you ready to get into debate about the right to read?
Yeah, right to read. That's a new one.
Yeah. So Amazon has this ebook service called Kindle.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how often you've ever bought a book off of Amazon and bought the Kindle version and read it through like your Kindle app.
Oh, I only buy books over Kindle these days.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I know. People, I know what you're gonna say. I just want to read.
Yeah.
And I want to read on my phone. I don't want to go into any of those what's good, what's not. Everything I want to read is on there. End of story.
Well, I also have a couple books I've purchased off of Kindle. It's not like my platform of choice, but I do buy some books that are only there.
Yeah.
I have purchased books. Well, Kindle historically has allowed you to download the books into a temporary cache on your device, so you'd be able to read them offline.
Yeah.
Well, the API to that is actually publicly accessible. So there is a way that you can just use something like wget to download the book to a local Linux system, which now you have a local copy that you can then convert to an EPUB file that you can strip the DRM from and so on, be able to post on like your self-hosted audio bookshelf instance, like what I have. Not to say that's what I do all the time, but I've tested it and it does work. Well, Amazon is disabling the download button on Kindle.
Oh.
Now
That's kind of
it's kind of and some people are going like, oh, that's not a problem at all. Well, this is where it runs into a problem for me. When I
Also-
said for me
Also,
geographically,
kind of for me. I'm
now
gonna later tell why.
now for the context, I said that I live in America, right? Well, this gets a little bit more specific to my locality in America because it turns out America is a pretty big nation.
Yes,
I live in the
middle of
cornfield.
nowhere.
Yeah, I live in farmlands, cornfields, Ohio, as I call it, right? And because I live 70 U.S. miles away from any major metropolitan area, I get very limited access to cellular networks. Like, of the big 3 cellular networks, I only have access to one set of towers. So, I don't have data connection on my phone at all times. Which means that I need that download button if I want to read my books when, I'm not home.
We should remember this is the guy who to find his cornfields uses dial-up,
Yes.
not a mobile connection, which would be the logical choice, but dial-up.
Well, that's because, the nearest cell tower to me is 23 miles away. So even though I'm theoretically within, like, the limits of that signal range, my signal range is so low, I can barely buffer a YouTube video on my phone on the mobile network.
Yeah. Well, and in my case, I will want to read books when I'm on planes. And I don't want to purchase the plane Wi-Fi.
1, because it's terrible, and 2, it's expensive.
Yes. And I wanna read books because what else I'm gonna do while on a plane besides type shit into the laptop, which I might not be able to do because it might be proprietary work. So the other option is read books.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, like I said, I don't use exclusively Kindle. I use, like, other services as well. There are alternatives to Kindle that have a lot of the same books that you also have on Kindle. The biggest issue that Kindle has is that it turns out that Amazon makes self-publishing really easy.
That's the great
So there's
thing
a
about
lot of there's a lot of exclusivity to Kindle, but a lot of the bigger series, like I read a lot of fiction novels.
Yeah,
and I've been delving into not necessarily like classic fiction, but like late 90s, early 2000s fiction lately. So I've read through like The Wheel of Time. That took me like 2.5 years, and now I'm currently working through the Witcher series, and then after that I'm looking at probably delving into like a bit more like these science fiction novels and so on. So that's where I'm looking at going. Now, a lot of these books are available on Kindle, but they're also available on like ebooks.com or which ebooks.com does this amazing thing where they just ship you the file that you can download.
Yeah.
That you can actually open up in they tell you to use specifically Adobe Acrobat Reader, but anything that can decrypt their DRM can read it.
Well, to go back on the whole self-publishing with Kindle, basically, even still, I would say that if you wrote a book for fun and you wanna just publish it and like to be out there and not on something that people can discover, not just on some random website you host. Yeah, Kindle Direct Publishing is probably the best option for you. And I would still recommend it, even despite this change. And honestly, one of my favorite books ever was first published through Kindle Direct Publishing, The Martian.
Yeah, and that is on the to be read list, so it's on there eventually.
I highly recommend.
I'll get to it, but I want to get through like all these other fantasy series that I missed through that I could have read during my childhood that I never had a chance to because cornfields, Ohio.
Yeah.
So we're working on that, and it's not like self-publishing a book. It has to be done through like Kindle. You can technically package your book as a PDF or an EPUB file and post it yourself somewhere on the internet. It's just you got to be able to talk like these retail sellers like the ebooks.com, the Barnes and Noble, and so on, to be able to also distribute your file.
Yeah, but
so
like
it is possible for you.
That's why it is so much easier to do it with
the issue with books is that there is a segment of the population that does not and will never use an ebook.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily blame them, because there's something to be said about the physical book. I don't know how many of you guys actually watch like the YouTube version, but I've got all these books on this bookshelf behind me. This book is packed full of books. So and I have mostly read all of them. I haven't quite read all of them, because a lot of these, like the ones that I'm pointing at right here on the video version right now, those are game rule books for an RPG game. Well, that's that shelf, and that shelf down there. I play a lot of tabletop RPGs, so I got a lot of those. So I haven't read the entire breadth of them, because there's a lot of them, and I don't necessarily need like the information from them right now.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about flipping through the pages of a book. And a well organized book. And I can understand like the tactile feeling.
I don't.
That said,
let's be honest, I don't.
Well, it's just a difference of opinion between you and me. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
But I also actively try to like limit the amount of time that I'm looking at a screen as well, which I have been. I have been ultimately sort of successful, but only sort of, because video games exist.
Yeah.
And I Baldur's Gate has turned me back into a video game enjoyer. So thanks, Bigpod.
You're welcome.
I have finally made it to Act 2. Yes, really? I spent that long in Act 1.
Really?
Yeah. Technically, I'm not even in Act 2 yet. I'm still going through the Underdark. I am taking my time exploring every single nook and cranny, going back and forth everywhere I can.
Have you at least been to the mausoleum?
No.
So not even close to Act 2.
Yeah.
When you will go to Shadowfell, you will be in Act 2.
Oh, okay. Well, we're getting there, so we're working on it. But I am just taking the time to do the thing that I haven't done in a video game forever, and that's explore. Like, how long has it been since I've actually been encouraged to explore in a video game? Yes, I have played like these other open world games, but I would just blitz right through the game and just like follow along what I presume to be the main storyline. Well, I'm not in Baldur's Gate. And it's just like, because, I can't discern main quest from side quest, or it's like the side quest is just interesting enough to keep me engaged in it. It's like, this is legitimately a good game. I am enjoying it. It's been a while since I've actually been able to sit back and just enjoy a good story.
Honestly, in this game, I'm gonna say there is no side quests. All of them have effect on the final end.
Oh, well. That's good. That's good to hear. So I'm not wasting time.
Yes, like you can do minimal set of quests, like the bare minimum to continue the game. That's what I do when I'm like trying to do heroic, or like heroic, the hardcore mode. So less chance to die, but like there are definitely ways to just do everything, and you're gonna have at the end a lot more allies, a lot more of that, a lot more of that. It is
that said,
really good game for that.
My brother has told me that he will give me a PlayStation 5 as well, that he's not using, because for some reason he just has 2 of them. So he's going to give one to me, and he's going to buy me the Monster Hunter game that's coming out next Friday, so I can play Monster Hunter with him. He will. He even said that. He even told me that he will cover the first year of PlayStation Plus for me, and like, that's a brother.
Well,
because
then in about a year you're gonna have to tell me how GTA 6 looks like when you will buy it.
if I ever buy it. I've never really enjoyed like the Grand Theft Auto games myself, but I've got the game console for it. Why not?
So at this point, we have gone way too much of the topic. So let's backtrack onto that topic. What were we talking about again?
We were talking about Amazon disabling book downloads.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry. Of course, that's not the only consumer dystopian thing. Have you ever heard of Humane AI?
Oh yes, I did.
Yeah. Now, if you guys do not know what Humane AI is, they're an AI startup, first of all. So ultimately they got a lot of venture capital money behind them, and they came out with some product that they thought people would actually buy, but turns out that nobody did.
Yeah.
Well, they came out with this thing called the Humane AI pin, which is just like this little thing that you can clip to like your shirt or coat pocket, and have like a Star Trek style badge that you can tap and speak to, and it would come back with a response.
Yeah.
Which, nerdy as hell, and you can tell that this was started up by a Star Trek fan, right? Well, they're shutting down.
Yeah.
So, and everybody that bought one of these pins had spent $700 on the device, because this device was not cheap.
Yeah.
And they are seeking the buyout, they have sought the buyout. They sold out on May 2024. They're shutting down on February 28th at noon Pacific time. So technically speaking, if you can get the pin within the week, you can still try it, but you're not going to get your refund. In fact, they have said that if every device that was purchased prior to November 15th is not eligible for a refund, and all refunds must be submitted by February 27th.
Oh.
Because afterwards, they will no longer exist as an entity.
Wow.
Now, this is shipment date. They're actually saying November 15th shipment date. Not even a retail purchase. This is shipment.
Wow.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
That said, there's already a community effort to jailbreak the AI pin. So that way, you can use it with like other services, because you spent $700 on this thing. You thought you were really excited about it. Now you're finding out that it's shutting down like less than a year later, and you want to continue using the device because you found some value in it, which I don't necessarily blame, but I do question your sanity.
I question your sanity if you bought it, but if you did buy it, yeah, I would probably want it to work. So let's just wait and see how long it will take for them to install Linux on it, because I bet you one Docker container would work on it.
And probably only one Docker container, because this thing probably has just enough CPU power to communicate with the remote server and wait for an input.
Yes.
But it could probably play Doom.
Probably.
Speaking of Linux, we have an update to the kernel drama that we talked about like 2 episodes ago, Bigpod.
Yeah.
I know that you're a big fan of like reading the kernel mailing list, because you linked this to me first. But we have an update on the whole approach concerning Rust in the Linux kernel, and Linus has stepped in after, of course, Greg KH stepped in as well. Bigpod, I know that you read Greg KH's response to the mailing list.
Yeah.
So for context, this has been an ongoing conversation for multiple weeks. So I'll have an Ars Technica link in the show notes that kind of just like gives us a fairly decent overview of like the entire drama that's not only been going on for like the past month, but touch on basically what's been going on since 2021. So Anyways, what did Greg KH have to say about this whole thing here?
It was simply that he isn't Linus. He isn't Linus. He cannot make that decisions that would affect the entire kernel like Linus can. And he said that based on his read of situation, Rust failing to build doesn't mean it would stop the things that are written in C to not be pushed. But now we do have Linus saying what is going to happen and how things are happening. Josh, maybe you should take this.
Okay. So he went on this long-winded post here. So I don't know if I'm going to like repeat the entire thing, but I'm going to find some things in here that's going to pull out that first of all, this is a Linus rant in like almost full classical policy minus like the hard insults that he used to put in there. So this is post-vacation Linus, as some people like to call it, because since he's like took that whole break from the Linux kernel for like I think it was like a 2-month break or something like that.
Yeah.
Just to kind of reflect on like his attitude with other people. He's been a lot calmer, but he was close. He was close today. So, the quoted email is from Christoph Hellwig, which is the guy that was which was more or less gatekeeping Rust from the Linux kernel. And Christoph Hellwig posted in two sentences here. The document claims no subsystem is forced to take Rust. That's proven wrong by Linus. And while you may not have known when writing the document, you absolutely did when posting it into the list. This is referring to like documentation on how Rust is supposed to be added into like the Linux kernel and how you're supposed to maintain like your Rust driver and how you're supposed to interact with everything else.
But here's the problem. But the problem is that nobody is forcing Rust on a subsystem. It's a separate subsystem.
It's a separate subsystem. So, here comes Linus. I was hopeful, and I've tried to see if this long thread results in anything constructive, but it seems to be going backwards, or at least not forwards. The fact is, the pull request you objected to did not touch the DMA layer at all.
And this is the pull request
I said that dramatically because
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. For the record, he posted that in all caps, which is why I had to exclamate that. Sorry, headphone users.
Later on, he stated that this pull request was literally just another user of the DMA code Helvig manages and writes. So it was another user like any other driver would be. So does Helvig actually have a way to force someone not to write a user of his code in a certain language? And if we go on,
yeah. So I find it distressing that you are complaining about new users of your code and that you're bringing up the kinds of complete garbage arguments. Honestly, what you have been doing is basically saying that as the DMA maintainer, I control what the DMA code is used for. Now, I don't know about you, Bigpod, but I have read the 4 tenets of free software that are explicitly described in the GPL v2 license that the Linux kernel uses, where it says we have the rights to use the software for any and all reasons.
Yes.
We have the rights to modify, republish, and redistribute the software.
Yeah.
So, obviously, Linus is stepping in here and saying that, hey, you're wrong. What's next? Saying that the particular drivers can't do DMA because you don't like the device, and as a DMA maintainer, you control who can use the DMA code? That's literally what you're trying to do with Rust. You're saying that you disagree with Rust, which is fine. Nobody has ever required you to write or read Rust code, which is true. But then you take the stance to mean that Rust code cannot even use or interface with the code you maintain. So Rust cannot touch a C API. Rust cannot make use of a Rust C binding for their library. I at least hope I'm saying this right. That's what that's the stance that Christoph is taking.
Yeah.
Your Rust cannot touch my stuff.
And yes, Rust doesn't need, like, let's be clear. If you as a kernel subsystem maintainer don't want to have Rust in your subsystem, as in part of your subsystem code you maintain, you have all right to say so. It is your subsystem. But you have no right to say that Rust cannot use your subsystem as any other kind of consumer or user would.
Yeah. Now, for the record here, DMA is like it's a memory library, so it does something with like
direct memory access. It's essentially that let's say your piece of kit, let's say your GPU can directly go to your system's memory and say, I want this piece of data, and pulls it out. It doesn't need to go, hey CPU, I want your data. Hey kernel, the graphics cards want your data. Here you go, kernel, the CPU, and then goes GPU. It goes, GPU can go directly, kernel, I want this piece of data, and kernel gives it to it. That's as far as I understand. That's how DMA works. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Well, I am in support of things being efficient, because when things are efficient, they're also faster, typically.
Yes.
Not always true, but it's also simpler to code as well. So DMA serves a very important purpose, and it turns out that writing things in Rust gives you the benefits of Rust.
Yeah.
Because Rust provides a garbage collector. Did you know that's Bigpod?
Technically, it doesn't provide a garbage collector, but at the compile time, it does basically compile in a way that makes it essentially know when things go out of scope, so it drops them when they go out of scope, when they don't need to be in scope anymore, because they, like, let's say it is just in this one function. In let's say C, if you forget to clean it up, free the memory, that's now essentially a memory leak, because that piece of code cannot ever be cleaned up or used again. That piece of memory, because you literally are saying, I go out of here, I have no access to this piece of memory ever again. Rust cleans it up automatically, or ensures that it cleans up during the actual compile time.
Yeah, that said, you can still have memory leaks in Rust code.
Yes, there are ways this can happen, but this is just one of the security guarantees that Rust gives you. And there are also others, like that the really right parts of the code can access certain memory cells and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you've also got like the whole memory safety thing, which like people mostly advocate for with Rust, which there are benefits to that, and there are some bugs that happen in the Linux kernel C code that are just automatically addressed by using Rust. So it's like,
I think I read somewhere that 60% of all security issues could be fixed just by writing Rust code.
Yeah, which there are some massive appeals to Rust, and yes, it is kind of cancerous to read some Rust code sometimes.
Yes, it is,
but
it's cancerous to write it. But honestly, like C isn't cancerous to write and read. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like I have seen that line of text in like the old Unix source code that BSD uses, where there is a comment saying that you are not meant to understand this. I have seen that. I have tried to understand it. I still don't understand it, mostly.
I believe Microsoft has also said that basically putting Rust into Windows basically did good stuff for them.
Yeah,
in the safety and just simply getting rid of bugs that would be there otherwise.
Yeah, so there are advantages to Rust. So I'm probably going to be still learning Rust eventually. But
Yes.
I've decided I'm going to go down the normal person, figure out Python first because Python's simple. Which I can sort of wrap my head around Python until like I look at Python code where it's like every single call is from some library I didn't know existed.
Yeah, but that nobody can understand code from libraries they don't know. Neither can I.
So it's going to take some time for me to figure this out, and so that's why I'm going with the Python. We'll see what goes on from there because prior to this it was really most of my knowledge is from scripting Lua for World of Warcraft add-ons and Bash scripting where it's just path to binary, do this thing, done. Which, that's about the extent that I've gone with Bash scripting. So, we're looking into this. But anyways, Linus goes on for a very long time in this. So, I'm gonna have his response linked in the show notes. So, we'll have that going. But there's probably going to be more to this story as we go on because, heaven forbid, Christoph is known to respond to stuff like this before.
Yeah.
Because, he's already proven that he's going to do it. And I'm going to be reading the mailing list a bit more now.
Great.
Or at least this thread. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, Bigpod, did you know that we have a Patreon account?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, patreon.com/notuxallowed. And we have some patrons that I would like to thank for, giving us money. That way we can work towards sustainability. Because it turns out that when you're doing things the harder way like us, for one thing, it's not as easy as going to iTunes and just publishing your podcast there.
Yeah.
It turns out that we had to have like this whole server thing, this whole website thing, this RSS aggregator publishing platform thing that we then had to syndicate with like all these other random podcast services because if we just did it the normal way they automatically syndicate, but here we have to manually do it just like the good old days. It turns out that that's not cheap. And it's not going to get any cheaper. Yeah. So, if you would like to help us hedge against our the future, because we are slowly growing, and that growth will eventually come back to bite us unless we actually start to doing something. Go to patreon.com/notuxallowed. Give us some money. We're going to give you an exclusive. We're going to give you access to an exclusive podcast feed because it turns out that Castapod can support premium feeds. Did you know this, Bigpod?
Yes,
it's an amazing feature, and I know that there are a couple of people that do make use of it.
Yep.
But what that feed right now gives you a higher quality audio bitrate for the show. So if you're an audiophile kind of guy and you want the best quality recording that you possibly can. You can go that route. It also gives you access to the pre-show that we record sometimes, where it's really just me and Bigpod just like talking about like what we're going to talk about on the show, and talking about stories about what's going on with our daily lives and stuff like that. And even then exclusive content that comes out into the future as well. So, and we can't necessarily do like the completely unedited podcast. Sorry, for one thing, our editor's not willing to render two different versions of the same file because it turns out that Bigpod and I still do most of our recordings separate from each other. We don't do like one master record. We don't have like one master recording server that records everything for us.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit harder for the editor to be able to be lazy about it and give a completely raw show. It's just easier to edit the show and post it. So. But that pre-show that I talked about, that is as raw as it can be most of the time. Sometimes we might need to go in there because I might get a little bit too political, or we might accidentally leak information that we're not supposed to share, and so on. So you can subscribe to the pre-show which. I do think that there will be one next week because we have a very special guest with us, Bigpod.
Yeah.
And he has a project that I've been fascinated by the past
Me
week
too.
because I have binged every single video. It's like, when am I going to get the Switch? I want the Switch. Can I get the Switch? Can I get the Switch,
It's not
please?
out
Can
there.
Well, yeah, he's got a router right now, but I want the Switch. I want the Switch that he's going to make next because he's got to make a Switch next. He's got to make a Switch next
We're
because
gonna see
yeah,
what he's
yeah.
gonna make next.
We're gonna see
yeah.
because I have a TP-Link system here, and it's still looking like it's gonna get banned. So next week we're probably going to be getting very technical.
Yes.
So and if you're a networking guy, like you've dealt with like enterprise level networking, or delved into like the finer details of going beyond the router that you bought off the Walmart store shelf that happens to have Wi-Fi included in it. You've stepped beyond that. You're probably going to be fascinated.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to be fascinated because we're going to be talking like manufacturing and production of hardware as well. Because I know he was talking about that, and I'm going to ask him about that because I have a background in manufacturing. I know this stuff.
and I have interest in that because I will finally get some answers I can throw into throw into faces of people I debate with in regards to prices and things.
Yeah. Because it turns out that every single port that's on a device costs money.
Yes.
and sometimes it's a lot of money. So, and if you would like to give us feedback about this episode or future episodes, or even just send us an email and say hi, or we did something wrong, like forget to renew our SSL certification,
or maybe even ask a question.
Oh yeah, I love questions. You should ask us lots of questions because if we actually get like community emails, we'll probably read them back on the show, or at least like refer to them. So if you send us emails, we might actually respond to you on the show. One of these days, if we get enough of them, we might even have a dedicated feedback section. Bigpod, did you know that we could actually have a feedback section?
Yeah.
Which I honestly find that in like these podcasts, the feedback section is oftentimes way more interesting than the show itself.
Yeah. Especially if you send the email in, because you're gonna go, will my email be talked about? Ooh, yeah. My email.
Yeah, because it turns out that I have an email client that notifies me whenever I receive an email, but I don't necessarily have a notification for every time somebody comments on YouTube or Spotify.
Yeah.
So, sorry, YouTube commenters. I know that you love commenting on the YouTube video, but sometimes I just don't look. I'm sorry.
Same. Honestly, I only look right before or during the time I am uploading a new episode. Yeah.
So, and of course, if you would like to hang out with each other, we have a Discord, and there has been some it's not very active because we're not exactly a huge show, but I did see that Jeff Seeley joined us this week on the Discord. Yeah. So, and if you would like to hang out and say hello to Jeff Seeley, or even just interact with us directly, because it turns out that sometimes we can be very interesting people to talk to. Like I know that I had somebody tell me the other day that I was the most based person that they have ever met. That said, I am a boomer, so I don't know what the term based means. I can only assume that it's good.
Look, I would explain to you. I'm supposed to know because I'm the Gen Z. Let's just say I'm the not very informed part of Gen Z, so I have no idea what it means either. Yeah, so
of course I have hit the upload button on a YouTube video. It's not published yet because it's not Thursday. Sorry. But this Thursday, after you watch this episode, I'm going to have a video available because I release all my if I record a video and upload it to YouTube, it releases on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because that's what I decided. So it's going to show up there eventually. You can go to youtube.com/@10leej to watch that video there. And of course, Bigpod, I know that you've been working on videos, and you've been doing like a couple live streams. I don't know if you've done anything lately, but there's always a chance that you might do something in the future.
Yeah.
So you can go to that link there, youtube.com/@Bigpod. We also have these links right here to that Mastodon thing that I was talking about earlier in the show. these are our Federation IDs. So you just plug these into your Mastodon instance, your Pleromas, your miskeys, your Pleromas, or even your threads, because it turns out that threads can federate. You have to make sure that you turn on Federation, but it's possible.
Yeah.
That said, the show does have a Twitter as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we have like a episode notifier.
No,
but
one thing probably should set one up because I think I can write something to make it happen.
Yeah. I've got the notifier set up in the Discord. That seems to be working beautifully.
Yeah.
So we've got that working. The one thing that I found really neat is that Pastacod or Castapod, our podcast server that we host on Tuckspace.com, can integrate with the Fediverse as well.
Yeah.
So if you're you can get every single post we make on Castapod as a notification in your Mastodon
or into your feed.
Yeah, directly into your home feed.
Yeah.
Which, hey, that's pretty cool. I don't need to pay Facebook to do that.
and since Josh told you my dirty secret, I don't make videos really, I'm gonna tell you why I don't make videos right now. It's because I'm working on a secret project.
Yes, a secret project that we are going to reveal in the realm of eventually.
Yes.
Which I've been kind of excited by, because it makes things a little bit simpler for us, and when this secret project gets revealed to the world, it will be accessible by you. You can go to our website and make use of it.
Yeah.
That said, you got to remember, it might cost us money.
Yeah.
And of course, we're going to have like an entire segment of the show. We're going to discuss like why this thing got implemented, what we're using it for, how you could potentially make use of it yourself. And I am looking forward to see what this thing even looks like, because you've shown me like an early view. I don't know what it looks like these days, but
it looks the same, but it won't look the same when I'm done.
Well, you know what? That's fine. So when that comes out, we're definitely going to be talking about it. And of course, next week we're going to learn about what it takes to make a router.
Yeah.
So we'll see ya.
Goodbye.